Hi everyone, Helena here with from Speaker Insight, where we help speakers, authors, and coaches to build a business on your terms. Oh, hang on, I'm just going to try that one more time. Because here we go. Okay. Hi, everyone. Helena here with Speaker Insight, where we help speakers, authors, and coaches to build a business on your terms. With me is the lovely Andrew Eggelton, and I will let him introduce himself in a second. As you can see, we are not in normal surroundings because the delicious Kelly is actually on holiday. She is in the sunshine, but knowing her, she will probably sneak in here just like from the poolside or something along those lines. But I'm in charge, which means that, of course, there are many things that need to happen at the same time. Like I need to be talking, interviewing, hosting, and putting some links in. So we're going to start the way that and I can handle it. I totally can. So we're going to start with what we always start with, which is the buzz in our business. And really, the buzz in our business is Kelly is away on holiday. I've done a couple of talks over the weekend and done a whole heap of preparation. And I'm doing a whole heap of preparation in anticipation of our retreat, which is coming up in 2 weeks' time. So it's really exciting. So that's kind of the buzz in our business. Now, for those of you who recognize this space, you are probably already members in the Connection Hub. Some of you may not know who this is. The Connection Hub is really the place where all of the speakers, authors, and coaches really hang out and have a decent conversation. And Andrew always contributes beautifully in there. So Andrew, whilst you tell them a little bit about who you are, because we're going to be talking about how to prepare like a world-class presenter. But before we do that, let's find out a little bit about you so that they know why they're learning from you. And meanwhile, I'll put links in.
You do that, I'll hold the space. I've got you. Right. So as I live in Australia, this is my home base, and I travel the world consistently. It's actually nice to be at home for more than 4 weeks at the moment. And I'm not going to start when I was 5. It's like the worst. It's like the worst. It's the worst thing to start on stage. In fact, I actually say that when it's my joke when I go out on stage. I'm like, when it all starts when I was 5, and people go, "Oh my God, he must be 45 at least." So I've got another 40 years to go. It's the worst thing to start on stage. In fact, I actually say that when it's my joke when I go out on stage. I'm like, when it all starts when I was 5. Oh my God, he must be 45 at least. So I've got another 40 years to go. Can you hear that? Is there? I actually say that when
hang on.
It's my joke when I go.
There we go. All done. It's all good. Keep going.
It's all good. All right. I started getting into acting when I was around about 20, and I had this thing that I people would ask what I wanted to do, and I said I was going to change the way that people communicated. And of course, in my 20s, I had no idea what that meant. It was part of it could have been brushed off as ego, and part of it could have been brushed off as just a little bit crazy. Now, when I got into my 30s and I was now acting full-time, presenting full-time, and I had a really good start. I was working with Ryan Gosling on a show called Hercules and lots of other stuff. Like I was working on the equivalent of your Coronation Street, I guess. It was that short and sweet. And presenting full-time as well and public speaking. But there was something that was missing whenever I was presenting, and it felt empty, as though it felt like I was always ripping my audience off. That's how I felt. So there was an empty feeling. And I wanted them, I kept on asking myself the question, how do I give them all of me? What is the way that my audience can get all of me? Therefore, then they can make an educated decision on whether they like me or not.
Yeah.
And of course, for me, it would become effortless, because then it would be completely congruent with who I am. So I didn't have to put on my presenting face or body. And doing that, saying that and doing that are completely two different things, obviously, which is why most people struggle with it.
Yeah.
But I got there, and now I travel around the world and I take presenters from good to world class, and I work with world-class people and not world-class people, to be fair. And I've created an amazing lifestyle and business out of it. And it feels freaking amazing.
And you know what I really love about that, and one of the things that both Kelly and I admire, is exactly that you are such a beautiful demonstration of what we talk about, which is creating a speaker, author, or coach business on your terms. You know, it's absolutely how you want it. And you know, whether that's a tiny tweak here and there, it all just kind of comes along, which is what we were talking about just before. So so yeah, you know, I know you add massive value whenever you make a contribution. And in fact, so inside our Changemaker Central membership, you did a absolutely fantastic interview, which is sort of sat there for the members, which I know so many people have gotten a lot of stuff out of, which is why I couldn't resist when the conversation came up around, well, how do you present yourself in the best possible light? I was like, I know someone who can talk to us about that, because I certainly believe, wearing my workshop mentor hat, that it's all in the preparation. You know, it's that 10% iceberg bit that really sort of comes up. And so yeah, really, why is preparing so vital?
So this is the most basic answer for me, is that confidence is a byproduct. It's not a character trait. Confidence is a byproduct of preparation, and that's preparation and practice are two completely different things. I don't suggest people practice in front of mirrors, and I don't suggest they practice, because what you do is you get locked into a rhythm and locked into a way about going things. And if your audience doesn't respond, your only way through is to bulldoze them. Yeah. You know what I mean? I've got one way of doing this. This is how I practiced it, and I'm going to go this way. Preparation is when you know your stuff inside out. Inside out, you've got so much confidence. You know, you could have a mind blank, which I do all the time on stage, by the way, and this is 25 years. It's another thing too. People go, you shouldn't go and I go, I do all the time, and I'm world class. So forget it. These little things, we don't need to get hung up on them.
I can honestly say that there are people who are watching even now, Daisy, Amanda, Sarah, who are all probably just going, oh, phew, just for me saying that. So anyway, I cut you off, but I couldn't resist.
Total preparation for me is just, I prepare, and then when I'm on stage, I let it go, because I'm giving myself space on stage for the things that are unforeseen, and the stories that might pop up that are in the moment. And of course, being open to, if we're going to go a bit deeper in this, is being open to being a conduit for infinite wisdom. Yeah. And that's when you get out of your way on stage, because you're so prepared, you now don't need to overthink it. Where am I going? What's happening? Yes. And you allow that magic to happen, which is the gold. That's when your audience, like, I'm just seeing something here that no one's going to see again.
That's exactly it. And I love that. And so I think it gives a lot of permission for people to actually just start with that. So the thing I want to backtrack on here is that, you know, presenting, as we're talking about it here, it could be presenting to 300, 1,000 people, you know, sort of, or 1,300 people, who knows, you know, or it could actually be just about that the presentation that you do at your networking. Yep. Is it all the same?
It's all the same. The energy is different, obviously. You know, the energy of 300 people, 1,000 people is always going to organically lift you up. Yeah. And it's just normal. But I don't prepare differently. I don't walk on stage differently. I still walk in at the same state, if you will. Yeah. And of course, I highly recommend, and I still do myself, when people come and ask me and there's 7 or 8 people there, I still go and do it. And the reason being is, each time I speak on stage, I'm learning something about myself. And if I want to be the best in the world at what I do, I need to be taking every opportunity to play and to learn and to fall over and to find what works. Yeah.
And you know, I think there's a lot of agreement from people who are even watching. So I'm just going to put my glasses on, because I can see it in one of the screens I'm looking at, but not in the other one. So here it goes. So Sarah Ann Negus is saying, know your stuff so you know your stuff is from within you, and then speak from your heart. So very much echoing what you're saying. And Daisy's also saying, you know, I'm the same. Preparation is the skeleton to add the spontaneous padding ad hoc.
That's it.
It's a really nice way of putting it, I think. So
I love that, and I'm not even going to steal it. I like it.
Daisy, it's yours to keep, honey. It's yours to keep. We love it. It's a great image, right?
It is.
I'm now with Christmas trees and baubles, but like if Kelly were here, I'd be getting like a great big slap on the side, sort of going, it's not even November yet, so I'm not allowed to do that. So we'll get back on track. So talk us through then. You say that the preparation is paramount, whatever it is that you're going for. So what areas do we need to be thinking about, sort of in the before, the during, and the after stages of a presentation that you're working with?
What is the first thing I think of is, what is the journey that I want to take my audience on?
Nice.
Like I consciously choose how I'm going to make them feel and the journey that I'm going to do that. So then I build my framework around that. So if I'm just going to use an hour, it's easy. So I'll have a framework of the key points that I want to touch at each place. Like it could be the 5 steps of a world-class presenter. And I'll consciously choose then exercises or tools that I can use that are going to make them feel a certain way. And then, of course, everything that I do, then I commit 100% to it. So I'm certain, I do it with absolute certainty that this is going to be the effect that I have on them.
Yeah.
So whether that be, I have something called an expansion exercise, where it doesn't matter how many people there are, I'll get them to close their eyes. I've developed music that's 9 minutes, and it takes them on a journey. And I keep taking them into future self. And of course, when they come out of that, they feel very empowered, and also a lot of emotion about realizing how much greatness they hold within themselves and how much they've been underplaying in life. So it's this big release. And of course, I have chosen that this is what is going to happen. So if I commit to it, it has an amazing reaction on the audience.
Yeah.
And of course, now they're in a different state, I move forward. So if you're talking about preparation, it's how do I want them to feel at different stages through my hour's presentation?
And I really, really love that, because, sort of like, so Dilys has just said, it's all about the audience. And I, of course, come from a For Intentions perspective, where it's all about, how do I leave people feeling in that way? So I think we're all kind of singing off the same hymn sheet. And I think there's something here to be said for, whilst that's an opening and it's a 9-minute exercise in that way, Michelle says it's a really powerful one. Hi, Michelle. A powerful exercise. But, there's something to be said for, just because that's in a presentation for an hour, actually you can choose how you want to leave people feeling after your 60-second pitch or after a 10-minute talk as well. You can absolutely, this is like a concertina tool, right?
Yes. I just chose 1 hour, but 15 minutes you either concentrate it or you find another way of doing that. And that's just sitting down and going through a creative process. Like you are the captain of the ship, and it's your job to do this. And this is a really nice tip, perhaps, for some people, is
go for it.
Don't ask yourself when you're doing a talk is, what do the audience want? Because that means you have to become schizophrenic. Because if that's 8 or 300 people, you don't know what they want. That's impossible. You ask yourself, what is the journey that I'd like to take myself on?
Yeah.
So, and then it becomes art. Then it's like a musician making an album and going, I've made this, it's very personal. This is my journey, the breakup or whatever it is. And now they put it out and go, I hope you like what I've made. And it's the same. It's the same thing.
What's interesting for me about that is that, and in honor of Kelly, I will, not being here, I will absolutely use the avatar piece, because actually it's still about, most of us are, as you've highlighted, sort of from way back when you were little, most of us are our avatar 2 or 3 iterations ago. We are the role model for those that are kind of aspiring to be with us. So actually we do have a connectedness with our audience, as was, because we were them 9 times out of 10. And so we can actually do that whole, and what is the journey piece that we can actually kind of work with.
Yeah, you just change depending on who your audience is, you just change the destination.
Yeah.
Of where you're going.
I'm smiling because Michelle's gone, yeah, but the bloody clients have their own ideas, however.
Yes, if you have clients. Yes. If you're being paid to speak, or if you have clients, then you tell them what you're going to give them and then give them something else.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's all about wants and needs, isn't it? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so given that, you know, you've certainly, given that we've given some thought to the journey as such, what are the kind of tangible, practical things that people can do to actually prepare themselves? And I think there are different areas in which we can do it. So I'm just going to kind of throw some areas at you and see what shows up. So what tips have you got for preparing the material that you're actually going to be using or delivering, apart from the personal journey?
Do you know what? I hope this is helpful.
Mm-hmm.
I choose stuff that's going to excite me and challenge me. And I know, and I've chosen, and I understand who my audience is. I've asked who my audience is, if it's something I'm going to speak at, or if I'm advertising to them and they're coming to my gig, I know who they are.
Mm.
If I think being paid to speak is a bit of a myth, but if I'm being asked to come and speak at someone's gig, the material will be based around how far I think I can stretch them and what it is that they're going to walk away. And I layer that with lots of tangible tools. And the other thing I do when I'm creating material is it's not about me or my life.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about the value that I'm adding throughout that talk. So we've been sold an idea that it's our story that is the value. This is why you're on stage. But then we're justifying our sense of self-worth on stage by how much pain we've been through.
Yeah.
Quite often, which means nothing to me. I don't want to hear about any sob story on stage. I want to know what you learned by going through that.
That's right.
If that's your thing. So how can you help me through what you've been through so I don't have to go through it myself, or I can speed up the process and get out of it?
Yeah. And that also gives a lot of hope, I think, to those people who didn't have a sob story, childhood in that way. They've come up through it and they have a certain set of expertise that they can package up in some way that is delivering the value, as you say, which is probably a good permission for many.
Yeah. And you can frame it up at the beginning by, look, I've been through some really challenging times in my life and this is what I learned.
And that becomes, because it's all relevancy to other people who are actually sitting there. Okay, so let's try this one on for size then. So how do you, or how can the people listening, either here or on the replay, and if you're on the replay, do a hashtag replay. We love to hear it when you are actually doing that. So but how can you prepare yourself to present?
Nice.
There she is. I told you she'd come here. Is it hot, Kelly? Is it hot by the pool? Don't make me jealous because I'm actually sat here with my fire ready to go and like my scarf on. Sorry. Right. I'll come back to you, Andrew. I was just excited because I told you she'd be here. It's just how it is. So she's watching from the sunbed. There it is. Right. Okay. We'll leave her behind now. So how do you go about preparing yourself, or how can one go about preparing oneself?
You prepare yourself by, I over prepare. And that way, that gives me the confidence and the ability then, as I think Michelle said before, it's the skeleton, and then I can play on top of that. So I prepare so I know where I'm going from A to B, and now I can play within that. Now, the other thing that I do when preparing myself is I don't put myself in some kind of altered state on the side of stage. I don't breathe. I don't meditate. I don't believe that's the way to go. Other people will think it works for them. I don't drink. I don't take drugs. I don't do these things before I go on stage to calm myself down. I commit to what I'm going to do on stage 100%. Any exercises or tools, I'll commit to it 100%. And the other thing that I prepare too is, I think we're going to get to that when we get to voice, but
you can cover it now. How do you prepare your voice? Get in there.
My speech now is this: I speak on stage as I do off stage. I was just speaking with a client today, is that I choose my words carefully. I use as little amount of words as possible, and I try to speak in sound bites. And this is how I speak to Danny, my partner. This is how I speak to people. This is how I speak to the person when I go to buy milk. And it just creates effective communication.
Beautiful.
So on stage, although I will get into when I do tap in and allow myself to be a conduit for infinite wisdom, if you can call it that, I will continue to try and speak in sound bites so my audience can digest and come back, digest and come back. And then they learn my rhythm.
Yeah.
So they start to go, this guy speaks funny.
Yeah.
And then they realize, he speaks in nice little short chunks. And so that they can go, every time I'm giving them a gap, they can process it. And then when I feel the energy in the room, I go back and start speaking again. And if I really feel like I've made a valid point, I'll just hold it there.
Yeah.
And kind of smile or whatever happens and just go, yeah, you're meant to be writing this down now. That was really bloody good.
Yeah. and you know, those pauses, I think a lot of people are actually afraid of the pauses, but preparing to reminding yourself as a preparation to put the pauses in, you know, as you said, creating the gap for people to do the understanding is a really, really big thing. So I think speaking in sound bites, I'm just going to summarize what I heard, helping them learn your rhythm are all absolutely amazing things that allow your presentation to land even better. So even some preparation up front for you actually doing that and, you know, landing those smaller sentences. Michelle was saying it's tricky, but she likes it, you know, sort of the short sentences. Just doing that prep, I think, allows them to feel like they are going to be learning and then allows them to do the learning, right?
Yes, it takes the pressure off you too. Even as a presenter, when you're speaking in sound bites, it only means you have to put a sentence together at a time in your head.
Yeah,
totally agree. And what happens is that you're in control of your mouth then. And this, you know, and I've been there too.
Yeah.
Where someone switched going, oh, Andrew, you're not speaking on this today. Can you speak on this? And you're going, oh, okay, I can do this. And then I'm listening to my mouth. I'm hearing my mouth speak and I'm going, this has got nothing to do with where I want to go, but now it's too late. I'm down the rabbit hole and I have to finish the story. And so this is where I really started to learn, just choose the next right word, put it into a sentence and now give that to the audience. And I'm in control here of this.
Yeah. And that whole sense of just hearing what's actually going on. Interestingly, before, like, so this morning I was actually wearing my workshop mentor hat. And the key thing that came out was less is more.
Yes, I always say less is more.
You know, like just one coat hook, not one of these kind of racks of 10, one or maybe two, you know, sort of like, because actually where the conversation takes you still means that the audience gets what they're actually kind of working with. So is there anything, whilst we're talking about that, what tips do you have for, this is going to sound like a weird one to ask, but what tips do you have for preparing the audience for you, if that makes sense? So not preparing for the audience, but preparing the audience.
I don't know how to answer that. I don't know how to answer that. I don't really prepare the audience. I have music at the beginning. I like to play music that sets a tone. I don't have the luxury of Anthony Robbins and having people hyping up a crowd. And of course, if your crowd is hyped up, you need to come up in and match the energy. So you got to remember that, which is why if no one's, you'll organically walk on stage and match them at their energy. This is why when people come on and they're like clapping and jumping, like, come on, let's stand up and clap. You're like, dude, it's 8 a.m., man. Do you know what I mean? I haven't had coffee. I'm not even interested in the shenanigans right now. You got to warm me up. I need a bit of foreplay before I'm actually participating in this. You know what I mean?
No, I totally get it. And, you know, it's interesting because it's the tiny little thing. So, you know, you weren't necessarily even thinking about it, but just the music that you choose is a way of preparing people. The atmosphere that you set is a way of preparing people. The fact that you haven't got high-fiving going on in the room all over the place is preparing people, right? So I think there's something here about, certainly for me, about setting the atmosphere, and that then gets followed as you start doing whatever you're doing, right?
Yes, it is. I mean, normally if it's my own gig, I've got normally very heart-centered, beautiful people in there. That's who I'm attracting, I guess. And if it's not my gig, I'm not in control of that. So it'll be music or other little tools. Our job is to get out on that stage and connect with that audience as fast as possible. And this is why the whole point of my technique, if you will, or how I present, is about, I don't call it authentic and I don't call it vulnerable, because I don't understand what those two things are. Because if you just are, it is.
Yeah.
I mean, when people go on stage and they go, hey, I'm really nervous, I'm going to be really authentic today. You don't even know what authentic means if you have to actually state it before you start.
Yeah.
It just is, because that's who you are.
Yeah.
That's authentic.
Well, interestingly, I'm just going to say, so Kelly's just actually, so you missed a little bit at the front, Kelly, where we sort of talked about this, but it is a slightly different thing. So Kelly's just actually saying, can you talk about the journey of the presentation? Like a film, you don't open with the big scene, you kind of come to the journey. So before, Kelly, we talked about the fact that you're working with the emotional context of it. Where do we want to actually take them? What's the journey that we want to take them on, as far as this goes? And you're just receiving some love, so I'm just going to actually give you some love whilst we're at it, and then I'm going to ask you another question. Loving your authentic approach, Andrew. It feels so cringy when audiences are hyped. Love natural. And Kelly's apologizing. You don't need to apologize, hon. It's totally fine. You just reiterating that we're all on the same page, which is why we love you. So because I want to keep this as semi-short as we can, I'm basically doing my best to not actually do as long a one as Michelle and Kelly actually did when they were on there a little while ago. So I'm like in competition mode a little bit. But what have you got to say around preparing for the intention that you have? Because I many people here will know that I really focus on that intention that people have around what is it that you want to give, what is the value that you want to give. So what do you do around that, if anything? Okay,
so there's a big intention. There's two things running as a presenter, I believe. There's two things running. One is that you're a business person, and this is business. But two is that you really care. And I believe that the intention that you're running the most or the highest is the one that the audience will pick up on. And that's why I love this presenting from dropping into a heart. I get out of your head into your heart. And of course, your head's great for speaking in sound bites until it becomes natural and knowing who your audience are and creating a framework and all that stuff. But on stage is staying in that heart space so you're connected with your audience, because that's your job.
Yeah.
And why we do speaking gigs, why we get up on stage and hold our own gigs, is because we want people to come and meet us and develop an instant trust. And the faster you can create that trust, the more likely, and if we're speaking from a business point of view, that they're going to buy from you or follow you. This is our freaking job.
Yeah.
It's not about spreading love around the world all the time. Well, it is, but that's the byproduct.
But it definitely is. So I absolutely love that. And I'm really scared to ask this next one, because I suspect that you and I will go down the rabbit hole, and we'll just see how we go. So if there was one thing that everyone can do to kind of raise their game as a presenter and become world class, what would that be?
Can I that last question?
Yeah.
The intention is adding value. The intention is adding value. What is my value that I'm giving them today? That I care? And then what change are they going to walk out with today? So they need to have changed how they felt from when you went from A, beginning, and B, when you finished. They need to be feeling different about life or emotionally.
Yeah, now, that is a job well done.
It is. It's kind of it all wrapped up. Now, you said, what is the just reiterate that again.
So if there was one thing that everybody here could kind of take away to really raise their game as a presenter, what would that be?
So we're
How
talking,
do they become world class? That's basically what I'm asking.
That's really easy. And this is just something I've been really settling into the last few months, is world class is not just on stage. It begins everywhere. And it's your mindset. It's how you're looking after yourself. It's how you look after your relationship. It's how you look after your work and you conduct yourself. So if you were to put that into a word, it would be your values. And those values are not everywhere. And you're living by them. And this is the difference too, is those values aren't when you remember your values. They're not like, oh, but on Saturdays I don't really do it, or some days like, I don't really feel like being honest at the moment. If your value is that you're honest and trustworthy, which is one of mine, is like I'm that 24/7 all day, every day. Yeah. And until it becomes me and I don't have to think about it anymore.
Yeah.
And all these values, when you just start listing what does a world-class person look like, what does a world-class presenter look like, and writing down those values and characteristics, then you've just got this list, which is an endless list to be honest, but give yourself little chunks and you take those on board until you step out in 10 weeks or 8 weeks and go, oh my God, I am that now. I am that. And you will notice straight away. This is why life is fair in this regard. When you become these good values, when you become these world-class values, your life changes and it results in your outside world reflects it straight away. Like it's not a slow process. Like it happens straight away. Yeah. Your day changes as soon as you decide to become that person. Your day changes.
Yeah,
and of course, then you get new experience.
Yeah, there's an exercise that I love to sort of set people around values, which is to choose a value for the week and actually simply be that value for the week and allow that to kind of be in place and just to explain, to explore with it, because actually it may not be a value that you choose to take on, but it's a bit like wearing a coat for a week and actually going, what does the world look like through these eyes? Who am I being? Who am I being seen as? Who am I being out in the world? What does my contribution look like? What, and just kind of really dancing with it in some way. And that can actually, and then bringing it back, as you say, when you step into it fully, you get to go, oh, I choose this. And then you bring that to your presentation. And again, dare I say the word authentic, because you don't have to say the word authentic because you are it, as you said before.
There's another couple of words that I love what you said about that, a word a week, which is what I do. If I could turn this around, you'll see all my post-it notes. And it's literally the word like decisive. And I had to become decisive, because if it took me too long to make a decision, where's my venue? What date am I going to have it on? Blah, blah, blah. It's just do it.
Yeah.
You just go, this is my date. This is the city I'm. This is how I'm going to get there. And then you work backwards.
Yeah.
And then everything just starts getting forward momentum, being decisive, being clear. And one I used, I started like December last year. I mean, if I'm going to be the authority, if I'm going to be the best in the world at what I do, I need to be seen as an authority. And I need to feel like an authority. And so I wrote embody, and I just had it on my window.
Beautiful.
And I only took that off about 3 months ago. So it was up there not like about 8 months.
Yeah.
Until I was on stage and people started going, my God, you're so different. It's like you really believe what you're saying now. It's like bone deep. And I'm like, yes, that's exactly what I'm after. Until it becomes you. Yeah. And then you can take that post-it note off and now it's just, it's me.
And so, sort of what's really interesting is that, back to how do you prepare as a world-class presenter? If we take all of this, there are tiny little tangible, practical things we can do. And then there's the bigger stuff that we can actually, so, there's that ethos of have, do, and be. What do I need to have in order to be a world-class presenter? What do I need to do in order to do it? And what do I need to be in order to be a world-class presenter? And I think all of those things can be encapsulated. So there are short, medium, and long-term things you can work on in terms of preparing for your next presentation, whether it is a 300 people, 1,000 strong people, or 10 people in a workshop in some way. We can all do something around it. So I think there's a lot of value to be added in doing things differently.
Absolutely. There's if there's one thing I could always just tell people, it's create that sense of absolute bone deep belief.
Yes.
And that comes from trusting yourself. And the more you trust yourself and you take action, don't meditate on this stuff, for God's sakes, take action.
Yeah, because that's
And
where the feedback is, right?
And taking action gives you momentum, and then momentum gives you confidence, and all of a sudden you're going, oh my God, this isn't actually that hard. And I was saying this to a client today, and that it's actually easier. The further you go, the more clients you have, the more bigger your business is going, the more it feels like people go, there's more pressure. It's actually easier.
Yeah, it
Because
really is.
You just get used to making decisions and going, all right, I'm going to try this.
Yeah, and that's exactly it.
Yeah.
It makes a big difference, I think, to everybody. So that is the call for everyone here. There are tiny, tangible, practical things, and actually, we're both calling you to a bigger place, a bigger hearted place potentially, that incorporates so many more things. So I suspect that there are some people to whom you are a new introduction. If they're not members of the Connection Hub, they may not have experienced you if you had just kind of come to Speaker Insight. So Andrew, how can people connect to you? And I know I've got some links, but you talk them through what you've got and I'll put your links in.
I have a website, andreweggelton.com.
Mm-hmm.
That's got everything on there. And also I've got a lovely little boutique Facebook group, The Heart of Presenting. And literally it's, for some periods, it's 24/7, people doing Facebook Lives, because there's no expectations, there's no rules, there's no judgment. It's go in there and practice and play and fall over and get back up again. And what you discover by doing this is that you grow as a person, not just as a presenter. This is the like the byproduct again. And then more than that, the more people articulate what it is that they do, the more they start finding the words, and the more they start asking for what it is that they do, the answers come.
Yeah. And
that's just by doing it. This is why, again, I say, do these meetup groups, do these small presentations. If you get someone to say, come and, when you speak at my Tupperware party, like I would go and do it, because it's an opportunity for me to play and build on what it is that I do.
And I think there is something really special about hearing yourself say something for the first time that you absolutely and truly stand for, because it's in the presence of others that we actually share the beliefs that we have and who we are and the way in which we do things that we don't necessarily do when we're writing it down on paper or when we're preparing in this way. So I love the whole practice in front of people and accept the opportunities, because it's only that way that you get to know who you be, so you can share more of who you are with the rest of the world, right?
Yep. Yeah, exactly. I just thought, because Kelly would want this, is I just thought before of, you wanted a framework or what is something that how I prepare. Yeah. And the backbone of again, I'm just going to use a 1 hour talk because it's easy. The backbone of a 1 hour talk for me might be 5 major points. And around each point, then I would, this template can grow and can shrink and grow.
Concertina.
I will have a few bullet points for each key point. And then around each key point, I'll tell a story to make that key point. And then I'll give them a tangible tool or exercise just to implement this immediately. So they'll walk away, if there was 5 key points, there'll be 5 tools I've given them, and a story to help make them feel in that moment, or to create an example around what that key point is. And so the longer or the shorter is, you just shorten those down. You just shorten them down. Cut the stories down.
It might just be 1 if it was a 10-minute, and so on and so forth. And that's brilliant. I really, really love that. Kelly said, yes, please. So, we've obviously been rambling, the two of us, and structure is always good. So back to values, Kelly and I really, connection and structure and contribution are really 2-3 of the key things that drive us. And so I believe you've added all 3 of those things in this particular live. So I'm really grateful for you sharing just a little snippet of what you do in the world. And I really recommend to everyone, go check out the links, because Andrew is just superb at what he does, world class, in fact. And thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Do you know what time it is here? I didn't want to tell you because I didn't want you to feel bad. It's nearly one.
No. She was at 47. Trust me, I'm watching the clock. I'm like, so long as I'm 7 minutes under. Oh, what time it is? Oh, yes, please
tell us. I didn't want to tell you because I knew you'd feel guilty knowing you. It's nearly 1 o'clock in the morning here.
Honey, I am utterly grateful is all I can say. Thank you.
It was worthwhile. I love doing this stuff. That's why I'm still here.
Yeah, I love it. Well, you get yourself off to bed. We're going to crack on with our day here. And just if anybody wants to reach out, either tag Andrew in the comments, or go and look at his links, and just massive gratitude for you. Bless you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks
for the opportunity.
You're welcome. Anytime. See you soon.